How's it going, guys? It's me, the Techie Gamer, here with another build guide. In this one, we have the $1,200 budget gaming PC build. Not only that, but this build also utilizes Skylake. I want to say the new architecture, but technically it's been out for a while. And also, the GTX 970, which is probably best played at 1440p or 4K. With that in mind, this build is a little weird. I wasn't too worried about the aesthetics of this build, but if you really want to color code, then you may have to find a different option. However, that is not what this build series is about. It's actually about getting the most value with the budget that is given, and to have the most upgradability for the future and overclockability for those who truly desire it. With that being said, let's get into this build guide, shall we? For starters, let's go over the CPU. So I decided, since there's like only 2 unlocked processors and one of them just wouldn't fit in this build, to pick the i5 6600K quad-core processor. Pretty self-explanatory for why I picked this one. It's Skylake, and this was really the only option. Moving on to the CPU cooler, I decided to roll with what pretty much anyone would pick, and that's the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo 82.9 CFM sleeve bearing. There are 2 major reasons why I would go with this over any cooler out there. The price, which is only $25, as well as the sheer performance per dollar. Honestly, the best starting cooler out there, especially if you want to spend more money on a different component and not spend $100 on a CPU cooler. As for the motherboard, I went with the Asus Z170A ATX LGA 1150 one motherboard. As I said, I'm not going for an aesthetics, and it's white, even though the rest of the build is black and red. Actually, white, black, and red actually looks pretty good. Regardless, there's a ton of features on this thing, not to mention that it has some pretty good overclocking. It has RAID, Crossfire, and SLI support, as well as some onboard USB 3.0 headers, and has 64GB max memory. Obviously, because it's the Z170 chipset, you're going to get some good overclocking, as I said. Finally, on top of that, right now you can get $5 off if you add the combo for the i5 6600K, which we have. So you're pretty much getting $5 right off the bat. This is probably one of the best motherboards I've ever seen. For RAM, I went with the G.Skill Ripjaw 4 series, 8GB of dual channel DDR4 to 2400 memory. It's affordable at only $40, and what is honestly the biggest deal breaker is the speed, which is 2400 instead of your standard 2133 memory. So you're actually getting a little bit faster RAM, which may or may not benefit for what you might use it for. If you're using it for gaming, you won't really benefit that much, but if you're using it for other things, such as different programs that actually utilize that speed, then that might benefit you. On top of that, G.Skill RAM looks pretty darn sick. Finally, like I say with all my builds, it usually doesn't matter with what RAM you go with, and if you go with the cheapest RAM, just as long as it's from a trusted company. But this, oh my god, was no exception. Great RAM, great price, great deal. For the storage, I decided what I would do for most builds, and to go with the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB 7200 RPM. No surprising there, great storage for such a low price. And finally, an SSD, which is the Samsung 850 EVO 250GB. Faster than your usual SSD, and just an amazing amount of storage for, again, such a low price. Moving on to the case, I actually found my case to stick to. This case is actually the best I found, and you probably won't expect what I'm about to say. And that is the Rosewell Galaxy 2 ATX mid-tower case. Specs may not impress you that much, but the aesthetic of this thing is gorgeous. It looks like a high-end case, but it's not. It also has all the necessities for a low to high-end build, such as front panel USB 3.0 ports, support for 5 1/4 bays, 2.5 bays, 3.5 bays. It even comes fitted with 3 120mm fans, and also has a lot of room. And I mean, it can fit some of the biggest graphics cards out there today. Up next, we have the power supply. Considering this build so far is only a wattage of 350, 550 watts seemed like plenty. So I went with the EVGA Supernova GS 550 watt 80 plus gold certified fully modular ATX power supply. I think 550 is even good enough to put it at the GTX 970 and SLI, so it provides a lot of upgradability in the future. Finally, for the operating system and the optical drive, I went with Windows 10 Home 64-bit and the Elite On IHDS 11804 DVD/CD drive. Pretty self-explanatory. As for the optical drive, it is really only needed for the install of the OS, and Windows 10 because, well, amazing. Anyways, guys, that is about it for today's build. Let me know in the comments what you think about the build and what I should do next. Also, part list is in the description, so feel free to check that out. But yeah, guys, I will see you all next time. Peace.